Hey everybody, this is Thunder. I liken the financial situation that we're facing. I would best describe it as a freight train that's going down a winding pass on a 3% grade, which is pretty steep, with hundreds of thousands of tons of metal, merchandise, whatever, behind it. And the engineer keeps applying the air brakes, and it slows the train down for a little bit, but then when the air runs out, he has to reapply it. Well, on a real train, you can't keep applying air on a downgrade. You have to shift to what they call dynamic braking, which is a whole nother story. But needless to say, we're running out of air here. Okay, so like today, there was a huge crash in the Chinese stock market. Okay, I think it was like 8%. That's huge. And there was one before that. What was it? A couple of weeks ago, and they tried to put a Band-Aid on it. That didn't work. Just like they put a Band-Aid on Greece. Okay. And that's not going to work. And just like they continue to put Band-Aids on the financial situation here in America, it's all very fragile right now. Okay. It's super fragile, and something like today, now today isn't over yet, but the stock market, Wall Street's already seen a big decline. And this whole thing is a can of worms. It could be a financial Armageddon, okay? Armageddon is a term used to mean the end, game over, okay? Checkmate. That's what could happen right now, people, because this Band-Aid effect and this air brake effect is not going to work for too much longer, because it's been going on for a long time now. And yes, they will try every means, every manipulative means, to try to make this look better. They'll put a spin on it. They'll do damage control. They'll do everything that they do. Lie, liar, pants on fire. And to stem the bleeding, okay? But as is evident today in the Chinese stock market, now, they did everything. They forced people to do things that is just unheard of, like not buy certain stocks and buy certain stocks and stop this and stop that. They actually told people what to do. They ordered them what to do in an attempt to fix the situation over there. China's not too happy, okay? And I'll tell you the reason why, I think. I think it was earlier this month, it was reported, there were reports. Now, I'm just saying there were reports, and people can check this out for themselves, that China was actually warning Russia that they were at a state of war with the USA because they pointed the finger at manipulation. Short selling, all kinds of things that Wall Street people and financial people know about that I don't really know that too much about. I'm not going to claim to be a financial expert, but I can look at what the alternative sources are saying, and I can look at the world as a whole, and I can look at what's going on in Greece, and I can look what's going on in China, and I can look at what's about ready to happen, it seems, okay? It seems like there could be a financial Armageddon, a meltdown. Well, what would that look like? Well, you don't want to know what it would look like. It would kick off an Armageddon of sorts. It would kick off an end game. It would kick off a checkmate. It would kick off of basically game over. And there would be all kinds of ramifications that deal with commodities and the buying and selling of goods and the Baltic Dry Index and just how our system works. Well, how does our system work? Will it work? Well, it works off of, it is greased by finances and credit and debt and bonds and stocks and treasury bonds and gold and who has the gold and who doesn't have the gold. And there's also been a big question about whether the USA has any gold at all, which would be catastrophic because Russia and China have been buying up gold in the tons and tons, okay? It's another thing they do. They short sell on the metal market, the silver and gold, to manipulate that, to keep the gold and the silver prices down so that people won't think it's worth investing in, and consequently the dollar looks better, okay? Now this China thing today is gonna have a huge effect on oil, okay? The prices of oil seem to be plunging. So basically what I'm saying here is we have a domino effect, okay? We have it's like you hit one domino and 100 more are gonna fall over because of that one, okay? And they can rush in and try to stop the dominoes from falling, and they can do all kinds of things. Let's put it this way: the people that own the banks and own the countries, okay, and the people that own the banks own the computers that they print dollars on, because they're not actually really printed out on a printing press. They just add zeros and zeros and zeros and more zeros. It's called quantitative easing. And they can't raise interest rates because if they did that, it would be catastrophic overnight. They've just been lying and lying and lying like they do forever and ever and ever, and it seems like they're masters. We know they're masters at psychology manipulation, psyops, and manipulation of the markets and manipulation of the media and manipulation of mankind in general. Now, is this going to catch up with them? Is this going to be, because a lot of people hope that it would catch up with them. They're hoping, the doomsdayers they call them, or the preppers, or somebody might include me in that category. I'm not. I'm just watching this shit go down, okay? Do I tell people to be prepared? Well, yeah. Let's hope you are. You have to be prepared on a psychological level especially, okay, and a spiritual level. That's where you really got to be prepared, because I don't know how much good it's going to do to think you're going to head for the hills and live out in nature unless you're used to doing that. So anyway, I thought I'd make this video because, when you see something like the Chinese market, and this has been wavering, again, it's like that freight train going down the hill and trying to apply the air brakes. Now, at some point, you're going to hit a curve, too. I mean, that's another thing. If you're going too fast and you have too much momentum and you don't have enough air brakes and you got thousands of tons of metal behind you, when you hit that curve, it is game over. All the cars derail. And in fact, that happened in real life on Cajon Pass at one time. Took out a whole subdivision, killed all kinds of people. Cajon Pass is a famous railroad pass in California where there's a steep grade. And I liken this whole thing to that. It's a really, really good metaphor. Because there's going to be a point, again, where you can't put on the brakes, you can't do more manipulation, you can't negotiate that curve that's coming up. And see, that's another thing. The financial people, or the people that are doing this manipulation, they count on there not being what they call a black swan event. Excuse me. A black swan event is something that arises, okay, all of a sudden, and throws them a curve, so to speak. Throws them a curve. And they don't know what to do, because they see, normally, like, let's say this thing with China, okay, it happened. Now they're like going to do damage control. They're going to react. They might have even seen it coming. They might have even caused it to come. They might have been playing with fire. And so maybe they had a plan B, or have a plan B, or have a reaction. But at some point, this black swan's going to take off. It's going to be like that curve that just comes out of nowhere. And they're not going to have time to react. It's, they're not going to have time to CYA, cover their ass. It's an old saying, CYA, cover your ass. Only it's cover their ass, not ours. Well, it will be ours. See, now this really goes into my previous two videos. There's so many things happening right now. It's just, it's kind of mind-boggling, all the things that are happening. What's really mind-boggling is that all this stuff could be happening on all different kinds of levels. You got the shootings, and you got the financial thing, and you got the Jade Helm, and you got the this, and you got the that. You got all these things, too numerous to mention, that are happening, and you wonder. And you got the tension with Russia. You got the Ukraine thing. I mean, you just got a million things going. By the way, if you hear noise here, I'm in a hotel right next to a railroad track, and here comes a train, and you might even hear it. There it goes. Very, very timely, since I've been talking about trains. But getting back to the point here, where was I? Anyway, the deal is that the black swan, when it hits, again, they're not going to have time to react. It's just going to hit them too quickly. They won't have time to react and cover up or do damage control, and then a lot of people are going to go boom and take notice, because the cat will be out of the bag, and people will like, oh my God, what's happening here? The common man, who is basically sleepwalking and hypnotized, might come out of his hypnosis and might panic. There might be a panic. There could be a panic sell-off. A lot of the people in Wall Street don't even really know what's happening. They just go to work every day and do their job, and they're not on the higher rungs of the ladder. They don't understand some of this stuff. So what would a financial Armageddon look like? Well, it would look like a real Armageddon, and it would be complete chaos, and there would be the trains again wouldn't be running, the real trains, all the stuff that brings us our goods, which are container freights, which go from one coast to the other. Everything would come to a grinding halt if there was really like a serious financial game over type thing. And it would come to a grinding halt, and there wouldn't be any food on the shelves, okay, because the trains wouldn't be running, and trucks wouldn't be running, and just any number of things could happen all at once, because it all depends on finances. That's what I'm saying. That in itself could be a black swan event, a financial thing like today. who knows how today is going to play out. I'm really interested in watching some of my sources to see what they say, and because of the Wall Street Journal and the news sources, some of them are more truthful than others. Some of them are not truthful at all. Most of them are not truthful at all. But what you do is you got to read between the lines, like with Bloomberg and Zero Hedge and some of these, resources that I go to. But if there's no food on the shelves, and if everything comes to a grinding halt, then that's going to be like a real Armageddon, and that could lead to the blame game. Okay, that could lead to China and Russia being blamed for something, even though it's probably the other way around. It's probably the USA manipulating stock markets in China to cause certain bad situations, like let's say in the BRICS nations, the Asian connection, the Silk Road that they're developing. If the USA thinks that they can go in there and manipulate and cause problems and not have it affect them, they'll try, but inevitably, I'll get that out, it will affect the United States. It will affect everything in the world. Like I say, it's one big domino effect. So, we got all that stuff going. Okay. Seems like it's ramping up here, people. I don't know, I've said that before. And it does that. It ramps up. It gets to this kind of like a peak crescendo, everything. I mean, the shootings, the financial thing. Then it kind of levels out, goes into almost like a calm before a storm. Okay, and then it rises again. That's like the yin yang, the dark and light. Change is inevitable, and there's going to be this increasing of pressure and intensity, and you can feel it in the air. I feel it. I don't know about anybody else, but other people tell me they feel it too. Like just something is just about ready to happen, and then boom, they'll put another Band-Aid, or they'll fix things, or they'll do something else. And then sometimes you wonder, well, are they doing this stuff on purpose? Are they doing another psyops thing where they're putting all kinds of pressure on people, using that old shock doctrine theory? And what they do with that is they put pressure on people, and then while the people are kind of like panicking and in shock, they pull something else behind the scenes. Just like this situation with China could be an event where they know that people are going to be upset and anxious, and so they'll do a double shuffle on the card deck, or they'll pull out the old shell and pea game, and it will look over here, but really what's happening is something else that they're doing. So you never can tell. And that's the state of our government, that's the state of our society, that's the state of how they're operating, their modus operandi. And it's just, but it's, on one hand, they think they got it all covered, but on the other hand, again, this stuff could get out of control real easy. They're just imperfect humans like we are. We make plans and they go awry. You don't think that... See, that's the thing that just... I think about this sometime. I think about as screwed up as those people are, and as inept spiritually as those people are, how has this thing gone on so friggin' long, over and over and over again, without somebody pushing the wrong button, making a human error? Okay, their plans running foul on them. Okay, how has it held together this long? Okay, where no error has been made, no Murphy's Law has hit them, but it does hit them, but they just cover it up real quick. It hits them all the time. But when is it going to hit them so hard that all of a sudden it's like going to be boom, game over? That's what you got to wonder. You know, you got to wonder when is everything going to just be so, let's say, either yin or yang, that it flops over to the other. And when that flop happens, baby, it's going to be horrendous. It's going to be a change that people can believe in. It will be big, and whether I see it or not, or anybody sees it, let's say in the senior set, okay, or the older generation, but it's gonna come. It's gonna come, baby. You can count on it. Just as sure as the sun rises, you can count on it coming. It's gonna come, and people don't make predictions anymore because they don't want people coming back on them and saying, oh yeah, see, you said this was going to happen and it didn't happen. My prediction is that it's already happening. It's already happening. You just can't see the end result. There is a chaotic type war, financial war going on. There is an Armageddon of sorts, a financial Armageddon happening as we speak. It's like that saying, the revolution won't be televised. It's like, yes, it's already happening. It's just not being televised. It's being covered up, okay, by the media and the powers to be. But when the reality of the situation becomes evident, well, it's probably going to be too late. It's probably going to be too late because people aren't hip enough now to grasp it. They're not hip enough. They're not awake. They're not. And I've tried to wake them up, and all kinds of people. That's another thing too, I might as well comment on this. I saw this video. I'm sure, it went viral. I'm sure a bunch of you saw it, about some guy that was sitting in a car and he had weapons all around him, and he was supposedly an ex-Marine, and he was railing on about he was being incoherent in a sense. He was being contradictory, but he was railing on about a call to arms. It was laughable, really, because the guy was either off the deep end or he was a shill for the government, plain and simple. You don't do videos like that and have them go viral, and the powers to be aren't going to let them go viral unless it plays into their hands in some way. And it was off this shooting, and the Chattanooga shooting, and supposedly the big furor over somebody saying that Marines or servicemen shouldn't wear their uniforms or whatever. And people, this is all organized. And I did a video on the Chattanooga shooting being a big psyops thing, and I'm sure a lot of people took issue with some of the things I said, but you should go watch it because it's playing out. Just like the Louisiana shooting, another guy on YouTube, Dutch Sense, revealed or exposed that all the witnesses or all the people they were interviewing on MSNBC were all like, some of them were actors and all of them were in marketing. And all of them, so you don't think that they can rig things and line people up and do things, make people look dead that aren't, and substitute people for other people that might have caused the thing, like I said on the Chattanooga shooting. You don't think they could do that? They can do anything, okay? And they can have you crying crocodile tears, or they can have you enraged, okay, to the point of what this guy was doing in this video, where he was saying it's a time to call to arms and we can't let our servicemen being treated. It really doesn't have anything to do with the servicemen. That's kind of a MacGuffin. It's kind of a false. It's a straw man. Okay. It's something they orchestrated to get people's ire up and back up, and maybe that'll play right into their plans too with this supposed Jade Helm thing, which I haven't really seen too much about. But who says there won't be a psychological part to it, and later they'll just say, oh yeah, that was part of Jade Helm, or you don't know. And like I said about the Jade Helm thing, that's already accomplished its purpose when nobody rose up against it, no states or anything. So whether it really happens or not doesn't matter now, because they already tested the waters and saw that the states aren't going to do anything. Nobody's going to do anything. So basically that was just a green light for them. So basically my point is, all this stuff could be connected. It could all be connected, and probably is. It's in this big agenda. Some people talk about Agenda 21, and some people talk about this agenda and that agenda, or this operation. We can only speculate, because that old saying, believe nothing you see, and half of what you hear, or whatever it is probably believe nothing. So let's look at this China thing, and let's think about, let's see how it plays out. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, won't it? How they cover this up, if they do, and how quickly they recover from this. Because if this is real, I mean, if the if the stock market in China is crashing and it's in the 8%, that's huge. And the Greece thing is really huge too, and they covered that up because there's no way they're going to fix that situation. So even if they do bail them out, it's what, they owe more money now, triple the money that they couldn't pay before. That makes a lot of sense, don't it? Anyway, I think I'll leave it there today. I rambled on enough, and just something to think about, people. We could be on the verge. I've said that before, but I've never made any predictions. You see things like this, though, and you just shake your head. Just go, how long can it go on? How long can the train engineer try to retain control over something that is almost out of their hands? Probably basically is at this point. All right, people, I'm out of here. This is Thunder, over and out.